Art is very important to me. Ever since I was a very young child, my imagination would run wild, creating characters and stories and worlds. And art has always been a profoundly important part of me bringing those worlds into greater reality. It started off with drawing, and that's a passion I still have to this day, creating new characters and depicting the worlds and stories I love to immerse myself in. It was a great revelation to me later on in life. It wasn't actually the physical, mechanical movement of drawing that I was actually enjoying, but it was the creation of something. There was some relaxation found in the methodical kind of movements of scraping a pencil along paper, but the true artistic satisfaction was in what I was creating. Otherwise, why wasn't I just drawing straight lines on a single piece of paper forever? But I do understand that there are some people that fall in love with certain mediums, but I still feel the greatest satisfaction comes from this process of creation. And then I discovered a new medium where I could depict these worlds and characters to even greater reality: writing. And since then I've become a published author, and writing is one of the great passions of my life, as still is drawing and art. My artistic pursuits have just broadened. I love to explore different mediums and tools that help bring my artistic visions into greater reality in different ways. And I've always appreciated tools that help me achieve certain things that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I love the look of inked art on top of my pencil drawings, making the lines more bold and it to stand out and pop from the page, yet it was also a very stressful experience because there was also a greater chance of smudges, and I even had other images ruined when small bits of water, just droplets, fell on the page, making the ink bleed. So, when having access to a scanner and being able to scan my hand-drawn images onto a computer, where I could digitally ink my images, solved all the issues and problems I was having with hand inking. It enabled me to do it more precisely, faster, with the ability to erase mistakes and also make later edits. It was a phenomenal tool that helped bring my art to the next level, and I never had considered it cheating, or that I was losing some type of artistic pursuit in not wanting to pursue physical hand-inked art. This is the exact same experience I had with coloring. I never particularly enjoyed working with physical mediums, painting, pencils, pastels. The same stresses existed for mistakes, but that wasn't to say I never did it or that I couldn't find great satisfaction in making a hand-colored piece of art. But discovering digital coloring fixed all the problems that I was finding with hand coloring myself, and enabled me to produce much higher quality art than I was able to do without it. Technology enabled me to produce much higher quality artworks, cutting out much of the tedious processes, and enabled me to express my artistic vision faster, easier, to a higher level of quality. So as you can imagine, any technology that grants this same benefit, I am very interested in, hence my interest in AI art generators. Many people view this new technology as something that robs people of their artistic pursuit and potential. What I see is the exact opposite. Indeed, far from robbing artistic expression, when you approach it with intent, having a specific vision in your mind that you want to achieve, it can enable you to bring that vision into a level of reality, detail, and beauty than you might ever have been able to do without it. But when you combine other artistic talents and abilities that you cultivate in other mediums, that enables you to make the very best art with this technology. And I'm not kidding in this. I am an artist. I've developed a very keen eye for proportion and detail, and I have applied that in every artistic pursuit in whatever medium I'm using. There are many people who use AI art who have seen my images that I've made with this technology and have literally asked, how on earth do I produce these results? They see a difference in the quality that I'm able to achieve versus the quality that they have been able to achieve. And the answer is, I'm applying every single talent I've developed in multiple mediums in my pursuit and love of art to this medium as well. AI art generators are not a replacement of artists. In actual fact, it can be one of the most profound and incredible tools for artists. Artists will simply be able to make the very best AI art. But when that is done, it's actually not AI art. The AI art generator is not doing all the work, far from it. When I make my AI art, I am in full control with a specific vision in my mind that I'm working towards. And as a result, this isn't made by just the AI, it's made by me using the tool of AI to achieve the specific vision that I have in my mind. This is AI-assisted art. Just like Photoshop is digitally assisted art, although it includes many AI processes that enables people to cut corners, make shortcuts, achieve goals much easier and quicker, that many people don't want to acknowledge that they are using in their own digital art, but criticizing the exact same type of use and methodology that is actually present in AI art generation. Therefore, to prove that great amounts of artistry can absolutely be applied to AI art generation to achieve far greater results than what people are able to achieve without artistic talent and technical knowledge in the program itself, I'm going to take you through step by step showing the entire process of the creation of one of my AI-assisted art pieces, explaining every single step also to help other people improve their art and ability to work with this new technology. So to demonstrate this process, we are going to be making an image of one of my favorite fictional characters, Supergirl. I had a big crush on Supergirl growing up and have a lot of nostalgic connection for this character, and what I love to do is to depict my wife as Supergirl because that's who she is. She is my Supergirl. She's the most beautiful creature in the world to me, and so I love making art of my wife. She is my muse, and I particularly love depicting her in the way that I see her. People don't see what I see when I look at my wife. When I look at my wife, I see the most beautiful creature in the world. I see my Supergirl. The first step is to choose the AI image generator. There are multiple ones out there, but I use the local installation of Stable Diffusion in the automatic 1111 interface. The reason why Stable Diffusion is the best is that it enables you to use multiple extensions and add-ons, giving you far more freedom and control, enabling you to achieve the artistic vision you have in your mind. It goes far beyond just trying to describe what you want in a prompt, because the very nature of AI art generators are infinite, and you don't want infinite outputs, you want a specific result. And as soon as you are working towards a specific result, it is quite impossible to get that out of a prompt and a click. It's going to take far more processes to achieve what you want and to make a flawless final image. There are many tutorials in how to install Stable Diffusion, and once it's installed, it actually runs through your web browser. You're not going to a separate website, it's literally running locally on your computer. People assume that once you have Stable Diffusion installed, all you need to do is copy someone else's prompt and start spitting out incredible results. This is very far from the truth. Stable Diffusion comes with a base model, which is a set of training parameters that kind of encompasses the brain of the image generator. There are hundreds, going on thousands, of different AI image generating models made by the community at large, and experimenting and finding the best models to achieve the vision that you want is actually a very important part of this process. I've worked with many different models, finding out their strengths and weaknesses, and as a result, I know which model will better help serve me in what I want to achieve. And to reach the quality that I'm able to achieve, I actually do something that not everyone does with these AI image generators. I use multiple models for the same image, which I will demonstrate a little later. And so to achieve this end result, I've needed to train a model based on my wife's face. This has been a long and difficult process with many failed attempts. The final face models that I have of my wife are the result of hundreds of hours of work. And the process to achieve that is a video in and of itself. At the moment, I have 3 very high quality, workable, usable face models based on my wife that can each achieve a different type of artistic output. And I often use all 3 of them in conjunction to achieve the very best results. First, you need to refine the prompt, and finding the prompt that works best is a process that can take thousands of different tries. Just copying a base prompt that you find online does not grant you the knowledge of what individual words are doing what to achieve the results, because tweaking the prompt is an important part in guiding the AI to get the results that you want. So, knowing how to weight certain prompts, the order of the prompt, the types of keywords are all very crucial. Experienced people with these programs know how to tweak the prompt as they generate images, guiding it by altering the prompts to get the results you want. But this is still only the first part of the process. There is still much more required. as well as additional things that can drastically affect and change the results, which are called lauras. Lauras are like additions to models that can be applied to any model that have been trained to push the results in a certain direction. And most people who first try Stable Diffusion have no idea what they are, or that there are even different models to use, or the importance of keywords, order, weighting in prompts, and figuring out all of this is actually technical knowledge, skill in using this technology. Even when the technology improves with updates, you need to learn how to use those updates. What is it doing? Oftentimes new extensions need to actually be looked for, found, added to Stable Diffusion, and you then need to learn how to use them. Getting better at using these tools and taking advantage of how this technology gets better is a crucial part in making the best quality art with this technology. So the prompt that we're using here is raw photo, full body image of a beautiful sci-fi supergirl flying in the sky and wearing a long red pleated skirt and red cape and red boots. Starting with a full descriptive line of the image gives far more weight and guidance to the prompt. This doesn't work with all models though. You have to know the best prompts that work with different models. Then I have the line trigger word that generates my wife's face. This trigger word will literally achieve nothing in models that are not trained off of my wife's face, and so for the majority of these first generations this is doing nothing. Then I start with guiding keywords. These are all very important guiding words of elements that I want in the prompt, and some might confuse you a little, like armor and sci-fi armor, metal top. The type of Supergirl image I want is one that has a more sci-fi looking Supergirl outfit, with detailed gold accents on the top and belt and boots, and these keywords are the exact type of thing that will heavily influence the output. And I've only figured out that they work this way through experimentation. My next prompts are now focused on the actual imagery, the artistic style. There are a couple of repeats there, that adds additional weight, and some prompts I did learn just work well from other people who work with these programs, like DSLR. The last part of the prompt, I have two lauras working. One is a noise offset which makes better lighting, and the other is a laura that adds mecha-type technology details. Both these lauras are available on Savitia, and the mecha one is particularly awesome when pushed to a further degree, can get some really cool sci-fi results. But I'm using it here just to weight the generation towards a more sci-fi looking outfit, specifically in the metal accent details of the image. So this is the way that I prompt, and the specific order of the different categories of prompts affects the output. And it actually results in an AI-generated artistic style. My AI-generated images have a particular look to them, and it's the result of the way that I prompt. And I prompt this way because it gives me the results that I want. This is not random. This has been achieved through trial and error experimentation. And yes, someone can just copy and paste this, but they're still not going to get the same results as me, because next is my process. And the next stage in that process is choosing the specific model to generate the first image that is going to be the foundation of the final image. But you might be shocked at how different this first image is compared to how it will look to the final result. After experimenting with multiple different models, I do have to say Rev Animated is one of the very, very best in terms of creative design. Fine details in clothing, lighting, composition. Rev Animated is incredible, but if you're only going to be used Rev Animated, you're going to be limited by this model's limitations. It is not a realism model. It is made to make animated looking images. So we are going to be using the strengths of Rev Animated combined with the strengths of other models to achieve what we want. So I start generating a couple of images, and yes, some look good, but they don't have what I'm after. And then I generated this image, and at first I was ready to move on, but I paused because there was something that I saw in this image that I had to go back to, and this is where applying artistic talent is really important. You might not see what I see in this image, but I see potential for a brilliant pose and composition here. It's not actually there, but I see the potential for it. This is hugely important, and it defines such a massive difference in someone who is able to apply an artistic eye to this process versus someone who doesn't have the experience or ability to do so, and they're just limited with the images that they're able to generate. And so with this image, I now have a vision of what I can achieve with it. But to achieve that, that's going to require me editing the image into a far stronger guide to what I want the final image to be. And so to do that, we're going to bring it into Photoshop, but first we want a more detailed version of this same image. And so we're going to repeat the seed with the exact same prompt, which means we're going to generate the exact same image, but we're going to do the high-res fix, which is going to upscale it using the same seed input, which means the additional detail it's going to add is not going to warp the image away from what we want. So it generates the exact same image, and then you're going to notice that it gets blurry once again. This is what the high-res fix is doing. It adds more noise to the image and then adds greater detail, upscaling it into a larger size. Now that we have this image in Photoshop, I'm going to recompose many of its elements to the image that I want it to be. And I wonder if any of you can actually see what I see in this image, the potential. Take a good look at it. But in any case, I am going to show you. So I bring the image into Photoshop, and I see that there is a problem with the left shoulder. There is a bit of armor there that doesn't fit, so I'm going to copy the right shoulder over and place it over the left one, just so when I regenerate this image, it's not going to have a silver kind of mark there. It's going to register that no, this is supposed to be blue, and it's going to regenerate the image with the correct shoulder. The right hand has potential, but the left hand is a mess, so we're simply going to take the right hand and copy it over to the left one. This doesn't mean that I want the hands to look exactly the same, it just means that the AI is going to have a much stronger guide to make a far more realistic looking hand when we regenerate this image. Now we come to one of the more important parts of this recomposition of the image to give a much stronger guide to what I want to achieve, and it's in the cape. There is something really cool here in the cape that has great potential. You might not be able to see it, but you will see it as I alter the image. And part of me altering the cape, I'm also going to be changing the background. I want an image of Supergirl flying through the air, and this actually has a brilliant beginning for a background sky, but the issue is there are buildings in the way, so we're going to edit out the buildings. This has also given the side cape of Supergirl here a much cooler kind of flaring out silhouette, but that silhouette can be improved once we finish off changing the background to a sky. And we're going to be taking out the flaring kind of side of this cape and copying it to the other side, which is going to give a much more striking silhouette to this Supergirl image. Then we're going to crop and center the image so that silhouette is even more striking, and we have the base foundation image of the one that I want to achieve. The vision I have in my mind has now been composed by hand in Photoshop. This is not the AI doing this. This is me making a hand composition based off an AI generated image, making many significant changes to achieve a far greater composition that the AI never would have made on its own. I realized that there was one change that I forgot, and that's the kind of metal stockings that she has on her legs. No, I don't want that. So I'm going to paint over this with a basic skin texture, and notice that I'm adding simple shading to it. Yet even this simple shading does require a knowledge of basic shading principles. And so the previous experience I have in digital coloring is being used to a very significant degree here. Without that, it would have been much harder for the AI to redo the legs in a better, more realistic look, and to have had removed those metal kind of stockings. So I just want you to take a look at the before and after of this image. All these edits were done by hand, or, digital hand. You know what I mean. And already there has been significant human input to get the results that we want. And to say the final image that we're going to get out of this foundation was just made by the AI is completely false and disingenuous. But this is only the beginning. There's a lot more involved to get the final results. We have a great composition with dynamic lighting, a good pose, and it's been the combination of using the strengths of the Rev animated model and my own artistic eye and digital illustration ability to achieve it. And so now I want to make this image more realistic, and to do that we need a different checkpoint model. We're going to switch from the Rev animated model to the realistic visions model. So now we take this foundation, this edited version, and put it into the image to image function of Stable Diffusion. The generations now are going to be based off of this foundational image using the realistic visions model, and the result is actually pretty darn cool already. Many people might be happy with this result, result, especially if they don't have the artistic eye to see all the errors in it or the ability to fix those errors. We're going to adjust some of the settings here. Knowing how the adjustment is going to affect the output is also very important, the denoising strength and the CFG scale. I want to give the AI a little more freedom in altering it, but not too much, and so I'm going to regenerate the image now. And what I've done right here, knowing how to work the settings to get the results you want, is something that only comes with experience and practice. It is literally a skill that you develop using this new tool. And the final result is better. Specifically, look at how much better the hands are because I was able to give the AI a little more freedom to push it towards the results that I want. But it also changed the feet a little bit, and I like the feet of the original base image a little better, and so I'm going to generate a new image with less freedom to get the feet I want. And so what I'm doing here is I'm generating for different results at different parts of the image. Different settings sometimes gives enough freedom to get a better result, say on the Superman S, but lower settings will get a better result for the feet. And so then, what am I supposed to do if I like one thing from one image and elements of another one? Well, we're going to combine them, and we do that in Photoshop. And so I have 3 base images that I'm going to work with, and I'm going to grab some of the best elements of each. It's done the foot really well in this image, but only the left foot. So I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to change that into a right foot and add it to the image. Again, the ability to do this requires knowledge of anatomy and proportion. Because I know how to draw feet, I also know how to change and warp this one so it will match a right foot in the image. Literally photo bashing from the assets I've been able to create from the AI image generator. There are some unnecessary parts, additions on the skirt that shouldn't be there, so we're going to remove that as well. This is simply having an eye for proportion and consistency in the image. The skirt is also too short for my liking as well, so we're going to increase the length, and it doesn't need to be flawless in its quality. It's going to mess up the consistent lines of the pleats of the skirt, but that actually doesn't matter because what we need is to give the AI a guide so it knows what to fix. That's what we're doing here, and what we want to fix is specifically the length of the skirt. It will be able to fix the pleats on its own if we give it enough freedom, specifically in the denoising strength. There is another error here on the image that you need to have a keener eye to see. Do you see on the right part of the cape how the sky is brighter above the cape but darker underneath? That gives a kind of unnatural transition to the cloud, so we're just going to brighten it a little underneath the cape so it looks more natural. The way the cape connects to the top is also a little inconsistent, and I would actually like kind of metal toggles or something that's going to attach the cape to the outfit. So we're going to add 2 gold lines added by gold accents on the outfit. This means removing certain lines that we don't want on the image and adding new lines that we want the AI to latch onto and fix. We're also going to readjust the color so the AI again has a stronger guide to color the image how we want. And here is the before and after of the image with the edits that we have made in Photoshop. There is another significant element that we're going to do here that's going to help improve the quality of this image dramatically. So much so that my graphics card doesn't actually have the power to do it. We want the image to be a higher resolution, which is going to increase the details to a large degree. But if my computer isn't strong enough to handle such a high resolution image, how are we going to continue improving the image? Well, the key is using the in-painting feature of Stable Diffusion. The resolution that we're going to increase the image to is 2000 pixels high on its length. So whatever the width is, it's going to adjust automatically, but the height of the image is now 2000 pixels. And we're going to bring that into Stable Diffusion. By using the in-painting feature, the image generator doesn't need to generate a 2000 pixel high image and overtax my computer. It's only going to generate the section of image that I'm highlighting, which is actually closer to around 700 pixels, not 2000. But it also means that section of image is a higher resolution than what it was. This is actually a more advanced technique that not many people know of who do Stable Diffusion image generation. By increasing the resolution of the image and then using InPaint to generate smaller sections of that image, One, of course, you're able to produce a much higher resolution image from the generation phase, but this also enables you to control and get much higher details, especially smaller details that Stable Diffusion can't usually define or latch onto when the image resolution is too low. This can be important with small elements of the picture like buckles or buttons or symbols, eyes and more, and so we're going to regenerate that section of image using the image-to-image feature, so it's using the input image as its base and foundation to be the primary guide for the results. And sometimes the results are very subtle and different, but as I compare them, I can see that the S works better in one and that the belt looks better in another. And so we're going to bring that image back into Photoshop and we're going to make certain corrections. The shade transition on the bust is too jarring and it makes them look pointed, and so we're going to smooth those out. We're going to remove certain lines that we don't want on the outfit, and we're going to make the toggles that are connecting the cape consistent on each side, removing certain artifacts and elements on the image that don't make sense, like fixing up the neckline. We're going to bring that image back into Stable Diffusion image to image, and we're going to lower the settings so it doesn't alter it as much. But using as a guideline for the new image, we're going to generate different results. And it's already looking much better with higher detail. And there are still many additional things that we need to fix. The next stage is fixing the skirt, and so we're going to bring that into in-painting, select the skirt, and adjust the settings to generate a much better, more consistent result. But it's not perfect. There are still edits and fixes that we need to make in Photoshop, so I bring it back into Photoshop and make those fixes. Some of the gold lines have become washed out, so we're going to do another color kind of correction and guideline in the image, putting that on a new layer and adjusting the layer settings so it blends nicer and gives a better guide for the AI. There's also an error on the seam line of the neck that we're going to fix here, and you might notice the tool that I'm using most of all is the stamp tool in Photoshop. Back into in-painting, we select the top, and we have a better guide to generate the results that we want. I specifically want the top to look less like cloth, but a thicker type of material verging on armor, and so I adjust that in the prompts, giving greater weight to what I want, and look at how the results already look more armored or more metallic. And it's through experience that I now know how adding weight to certain words in the prompt will affect the image. This is one of the reasons why I have far more control in producing the images that I want over a person who just copied and pasted a prompt and doesn't actually know how those words in the prompt is affecting the finer results of the image generation. And therefore they don't know what words to emphasize or de-emphasize, to add or remove, to get far more refined and specific results. It's knowing how to make subtle differences like this, how to guide the AI to the image that you have in your mind, that is so important, that enables you to get more specific results. And it also proves that getting these specific results is literally impossible for the AI generator on its own. It's requiring such constant guidance and human input. This literally feels like me making changes on a canvas with a brush. And based on the results, I go back into the prompt, changing it, making greater weight and differences, continually refining towards the result that I want. And we finally have a much better image, which is the direct result of very intentional action taken by myself. This wasn't the AI pushing for these results, that was me, as if I had a digital brush remaking the image. Still not perfect, we need to make some fixes in Photoshop. Removing lines, artifacts, defining certain shapes, fixing up colors and more. Back into image to image, we're going to do another generation but with a much lower setting, because we don't want the AI to change the image too much at this point, but what we want is for the AI to blend all those edits together so they look seamless. And look at the result here. This is so much better. In fact, the top is basically done. It's easily of high enough quality that many people would be happy with. I'm going to make some additional edits a little later on, but we are ready to move on to other elements of the image, like fixing up the skin tone on the legs, fixing up the hands and so they look far better and more realistic. This again is literally digital illustration that I'm applying to the image. We're going to fix up the color in certain parts as well, and then even make more significant changes to the color because I actually want red cuffs instead of pure gold. So this is a matter of adding a color layer and adjusting the layer settings to change the color from underneath, but using the same texture and shading. Back into image to image, and then I'm going to regenerate the hands and cuffs. But I want the prompt to guide it in the direction where I want, and there is a lot of elements in the prompt that are completely unnecessary for hands. I first need to add detailed hands to the prompt for it to give it a focal point that I'm generating hands here, and then I can remove a lot of the other unneeded elements. And now the hands are looking much better. But the cuffs don't look metallic enough or armored enough, so I'm going to regenerate those with the mecha Laura added back in, which is going to make it look more metallic. And with that, we are almost done the larger elements, bringing the image into a higher resolution, and the next crucial stage is to generate a higher resolution and more detailed face. But of course, we're going to be giving this image the face of my wife, and so I'm going to load in the model that I personally trained, and we're going to use that in image to image to generate my wife's face. And I'm going to adjust the prompt to give her the expression that I want. I want her smiling. My wife has one of the most beautiful smiles in the world. And so we generate it several times with different settings until we have a face that is actually looking really nice. And the image could be considered mostly complete at this point, but I'm a perfectionist, and I'm an artist. I want this image to be as good as possible. This is the difference between someone with an artistic eye, an eye for proportion and detail, versus someone who doesn't. There are many people who would look at this image and not be able to see any additional errors or flaws, and that can be well enough. I think someone would have every right to be proud of the final result and quality of this image. It is beautiful, but there is a difference between making good AI art and making some of the best. I want the top to look a bit more like armor, and so I'm going to start regenerating the top with a greater weight on armor, with the mecha Laura added back in. And there are some interesting results with good potential. I'm going to combine some of the best features of both. The chest and center of this image is really good, but the wrinkles on the side look awful, and so I'm going to bring in the side parts of the body from another image. I'm going to clean up and reposition some of the line work, bring back the gold highlights, and bring back a much better looking belt that was on one of the previous versions. There are some other errors on the image that need to be fixed, like the position of the cape. It looks like there's just a separate bit of detached cloth. The cape is coming down far too low here compared to how it flares out on the side, and so we're going to remove those incorrect elements on the cape. The earring is standing out too much and doesn't suit the image, so we're going to remove that. And the expression of my wife just doesn't look right, and so I'm going to load in another face model, which generates my wife's face in a more artistic style, which won't suit the image, but it always does better proportions. And so I'm going to generate a version with that model of my wife's face, use that as a base guide, and then use the more realistic face model to give us the final expression. And it looks more natural with a better smile. Because I was just generating a section of her head, her hair now looks of a different style compared to the hair that is flying off to the left. And so I'm going to select the hair and regenerate it so it's consistent. We are now very close, but there are still some finer details that just need to be fixed, like the sections of cloth here on the skirt, some odd indents and lines on the top, and there's too sharp a transition on the shading on the bust, and so we're going to smooth those out. This is looking pretty darn good. But there is a problem with the image, and once again, I wonder if you can notice it. Only someone who is familiar with anatomical proportions would be able to notice this. Her shoulders are far too wide to the rest of her frame. It makes her look way too bulky, and so we are going to fix these proportions with the Photoshop Liquify tool. Simple, subtle changes, but it actually has a very significant effect on the overall appearance and composition. The shoulders now look consistent with the rest of her frame, and overall she looks more feminine and delicate, which I personally like and is more accurate to my wife as well. With all these changes done, we are now ready to generate the final high-resolution version. We're going to use the Ultimate SD Upscaler, which is an extension that you can download in Stable Diffusion. Using the 4x Ultra Upscale checkpoint, another thing that you can download, we're going to increase the resolution by 3 times, which is going to add lots of finer details. And here we have the final image. And when I look at it, I'm honestly put in a state of awe as to how beautiful this image is. The lighting, the movement, the flow of the hair, cape and cloth, the design of the outfit, the finer details, the metallic sheen and how the S just pops out at you. And of course, it has the beautiful face of my wife. And now let's just compare the before and after. This was the beginning image generated from the first prompt. We were able to take that prompt, which already took a lot of human input to refine and get right, generate an image, and using all the artistic ability that I've developed through my life, we were able to turn that image into this. The combination of artistic ability, technical knowledge in the program, working with multiple models, applying LoRa's to get the effects that we want, multiple different tools within the program, from high-res fix to image to detailed multiple steps of in-painting, personal custom-made models that I train myself, and a better extension for a much more refined, upscaled, high-resolution result. And that is just having a technical knowledge of Stable Diffusion, knowing how to use multiple tools, let alone the illustration ability I was able to apply in Photoshop to edit, clean up, fix, and create the image that I wanted. And here we can see the process which we just undertook. There are some image stages that are not appearing because I didn't save them at that stage, but you can still see the overall process, which took me 2.5 hours from start to finish. A lot more time, work, effort, and skill needed than just a click. I can't see how anyone who've watched this entire process could then assume that the AI is just doing all the work, and that there is no human artistic vision or input or talent needed. People who say such things honestly do not know what they are talking about. They are statements from profound ignorance when it comes to this technology, and deeply insulting to me as an artist who has just made something of deep artistic expression and love for my wife. And not just images of my wife, of characters that I love, I can also create incredible, high-detailed, truly stunning pieces of art of my own characters and stories. These AI art generators do not need to be feared. When used in combination with your artistic ability, artists can get the very best results out of AI art generators. They can be the most incredible tools for artists. And if artists are worried about getting replaced, they need to understand that they have the ability to make the very best AI art. And they could never be replaced when they're still making the very best quality at a competitive rate, speed, and quantity to what many industries are looking for and want. And that's just the commercial industry side of this discussion. The claim that AI art is in no way art at all is a statement of profound ignorance and elitism. And people can believe that. I just know it's not true, because I know I continually experience deep artistic satisfaction from the things I am able to create with these incredible tools. Because look at this final image. How could anyone say that it is made by AI, when it is literally impossible for the AI to have made it? You saw how much human input was involved to create this image, this piece of art. I hope everyone who's watched this video now knows that no, this is a piece of art made by me, made by a human, using tools in combination with other artistic tools like Photoshop and my own artistic ability. It is still human-made art, just assisted with AI technology.